Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Hump Day.
What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
All right, everyone, apologize for the little mix-up here and all of the issues. We've been kind of busy here. Unfortunately, Mike is not with us again today. I've been scrambling, trying to get things together, running around. Anyway, it's been a day. All I know is if I didn't know any better, I'd swear today was Monday. But today is Hump Day, the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend. Sometimes with success, sometimes not. And yes, while the fun is all in the trying, yeah, it's been fun today. How about that? How about we throw that one out there for you? But we're here. We are doing our thing. We are making it a point to be here for you so that we can have a good old time right here. So we very much appreciate y'all tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the show and encouraging your friends to do the same. If you are watching the program live, and when I say live, I mean at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching it on YouTube, on Facebook, if you're watching us on Rumble, if you're watching us on Twitter, we're taking your comments. So go ahead, comment, let us know what's up. Let us know what you think about the program. Let us know what you think about the topic. If we find what you have to say to be interesting, well, we'll go ahead and we'll share it with the rest of the audience. And if we don't find it to be interesting, well, then we won't. But just know that interesting doesn't necessarily have to mean that we have to agree. We don't agree, that's fine. Just know that we reserve the right to mock you. Anyway, we're going to go ahead but we will go ahead and get into today's program. But before we do, we have to do what we have to do, and that is start off by paying the bills. And how do we do that? Well, we start by giving a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase. All you got to do is go to hitmanindustries.net. Check them out today. If you've purchased an AR recently, chances are you already have one of their barrels and you know how good they are. So why not get another one? Whether you're doing a brand new build or you're looking to rebarrel your old rifle, the place you need to go is hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to check them out today. Just go to cragop.org, cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. That's right, you will find them at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG, holsters.com. What does that stand for? It stands for Helping Americans Wear Guns. And we're going to help you be able to wear a gun as well. All you have to do when you go to buy your hog holster, just use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, one word, no space, just like it is right up there. You're going to get it on a discount on us. Check them out today. That's hogholsters.com. And then finally, if you're looking for outdoor gear, if you're looking for hot weather gear, warm weather gear, you're looking for cold weather gear, wet weather gear, look, if you're looking for any sort of tactical gear, you'll find it at uscombatgear.com. They have a huge selection. They have competitive prices and the best customer service available on the market. So if you're looking for group sales, they specialize in group sales. Let me tell you, if you're looking to buy for your club, you're looking to buy for your unit, maybe you purchase for your whole department, you need to check them out today, where you can find all things tactical except the gun at uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, let's get into today's news program. And we've heard a lot of stories. We heard a lot of horror stories from the left, and we've heard a lot of good stories from the right. I don't want to say good story. No, good stories isn't even really it. We've heard a lot of stories about stuff that's going on and spending that's been going on in the federal government that quite frankly needs to be addressed. And that's largely been addressed, that's largely been through DOGE. That's right, the Department of Government Efficiency. And they've been going through and they've been identifying a number of areas where there is just some really, really hinky spending that quite frankly should not be taking place. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, wait, why hasn't this been addressed? Why are these things not being addressed? Well, finally, it looks like these changes, these DOGE cuts, are going to be going to the Hill. And mind you, they always said in the very beginning that they wanted to go through, they wanted to release, they wanted to do all of the information, they wanted to do all the studies, they wanted to finish all of their work and then submit a report. And then once the report takes place, then they would, obviously, then some of those cuts would then they would then be introduced or addressed through legislation. Well, that appears to be what is about to be happening, as is being announced. This is over at Politico. White House plans at last to send some DOGE cuts to Capitol Hill. It says here the White House plans to send a small package of spending cuts to Congress next week. Senior GOP officials told several House Republicans on Wednesday. The planned transmission of the rescissions bill, confirmed by two Republicans, granted anonymity to describe the plans, come after a long internal battle over how to formalize the cuts that have been made by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency initiative. Two senior administrative officials also confirmed the plan Wednesday. The $9.4 billion package set to land on Capitol Hill reflects only a fraction of the DOGE cuts, which have already fall short of Musk's multi-trillion-dollar aspirations. The two Republicans said it will target NPR and PBS, as well as foreign aid agencies that have already been gutted by President Trump's administration. Speaker Mike Johnson said on X on Wednesday that the House is eager and ready to act on DOGE's findings so we can deliver even more cuts to big government that President Trump wants and the American people demand. He said the House will act quickly on a package without saying when it might be submitted or what it might contain. Republicans on Capitol Hill have been growing impatient as they await White House request from Trump administration, confirmed more than 6 weeks ago, that intended to send more than $9 billion package in proposed cutbacks. Now, I think the first thing to note in this is that this is just the beginning of the DOGE cuts. And I think they're going to be doing these once again. They're going to be doing them in packages, right? In other words, what they're going to do, the benefit of the one big bill is that the one big beautiful bill is that they can take care of some of the significant things that they want to do, and they can take care of it in one bill. Now, some of these smaller things that they believe should be passed quite easily, what it's going to do is it's going to put those who are going to be voting on these issues, it's going to put them on record. So in other words, you can't say, I didn't vote against this guy. I'll give you an example. You can't say that I didn't vote or I didn't vote against, removing suppressors from the NFA if you didn't vote for the big, huge bill, right? That's what they'll do. There's a bunch of stuff that's in the big, beautiful bill that you may dislike A, B, C, and D, but you like E, so you vote against it. And then they try to say, well, look, he voted against E, right? And that's what they're going to focus on. What this does is what these cuts now, these targeted cuts that DOGE has identified, these are things where each person who votes on it's now going to be on record as to how they voted on it, right? So in other words, if you want to vote, if you want to send billions of dollars to NPR and to PBS so that they can promote liberal left-wing neo-Marxist propaganda, you will now be on record as doing so. Right? You can't say it's other stuff. You can't say it's included with other stuff. It's right there. You know exactly what it is. There's no fluff around it. You now decide if that's what you're going to do. So once again, as we start to look at some of these things, some of this propaganda that's going to be coming through, some of this foreign aid stuff, right? People are going to have an opportunity to vote on it. They're going to get a chance to vote specifically on, should we be having gay pride puppet shows in Ireland? If you support that, then you'll vote against the cut. If you don't support it, then you won't. But make no mistake, every Democrat who's okay with the trans pride parade in Brazil, with funding that, guess what? They will be on record supporting it. Unless, of course, they recognize that that's the reason why they lost. Then they're going to go the other way. Anyway, that's what a lot of this is going to be about. So much of what DOGE is going to be sending. And keep in mind, and I'm going to say this, and I've said this a million times, and I'll say it one more time. The cuts that DOGE is making, it's nowhere near as close to what really needs to be done, because you're not going to see huge, significant cuts until we get to the point where we are actually cutting into the entitlements. And let's be real. A lot of the spending that is out there, a lot of the spending that is going to cause a lot of headache for folks is actually there in those entitlements. And it's going to take, the sad part is Republicans and Democrats alike have kind of made it known that they're not necessarily ready to take on some of those entitlements. What would you say to that, my good friend, Mr. Pivowarski?
I would say that I bet you the fraud, waste, and abuse is almost as big as the entitlements. I bet you by the time they get through going through everything, I just saw Secretary Kennedy talking about the $1.7 billion they found in fraud just going to a couple of major universities for research from the NIH. Craig, if they're giving them $1 million to do research, $600,000 is going to non-research items. What? That's fraud, waste, and abuse, bitches.
Well, it is, but when you start getting into the automatic increases that you have going to some of the mandatory spending, some of the entitlement spending, I think that when you deal with the waste, fraud, and abuse in the entitlement programs, I think you're right.
Yes.
What DOGE hasn't even touched those yet. Everything they've kind of done so far has all been kind of with the discretionary spending. The real problem with our overspending is in the ones that are on the auto increase formula. And those are the things like we have to figure out, we got to fix Medicaid. We got to fix Social Security. We've got to figure out how to make those programs. We got to figure out how to deal with federal welfare programs and make it so that there's something that actually benefits people and isn't open to abuse. And I think you're right. I think when you add up all the waste, fraud, and abuse, including those programs, it's probably going to be more than, I don't like to say it's going to be everything we need, but it's going to be a huge chunk of what we need to cut to reduce the deficit.
Yeah, and to clarify, you did not say get rid of Medicaid, did not get rid of welfare programs. No. You said get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse, like the 200-year-olds that are collecting Social Security checks, the people that are collecting Medicaid in 3 states, that kind of stuff, the dead people that are getting checks.
And by the way, for those of you who do not know, if you are collecting Medicaid because you are a drug addict, no, I don't consider. I consider that abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a health issue on you.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, but it's nice to see some of these DOGE cuts going forward. But as I was saying earlier, Mike, one of the reasons why these are separated out from the big, beautiful bill is because these are each going to be individual kind of spending cut bills, and they're going to get members of Congress and both House and Senate, they're going to get them on the record in terms of how they vote. So if you are okay with, transsexual puppet shows in Brazil, then you're going to be on the record for it. Otherwise, you're going to vote no. And I think it's going to put a lot of people on the spot who don't want to be on the spot.
What do you got against the Brazilian transsexual puppets? What'd they ever do to you?
Nothing. I just don't want to pay for them.
You want to show me on the Brazilian transsexual puppet where it hurt you?
If I want to pay for a puppet show, I will pay for a puppet show. Lord knows I'm already paying for a clown show with my tax dollars called the government.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, so how are we doing today?
Good. New computer system hooked up, and this is the first time we've contacted each other via Rendezvous Telestream Wirecast, and my computer spent a half hour telling me you really don't want to be going there. It's a bad security risk. You don't want to connect to that system. Please don't connect to that system. So a
Well,
brand new
that's what
computer
happened.
system. I had to sit here for the last half hour disabling safety features. It's like
Well,
this is how people blow their hands off with dynamite. This is how that happens right here.
this is how they do it
Yeah.
outside of 4th of July.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, good stuff. Good stuff is happening there. There now. This next story is not so good stuff. It's not so good a bill, and I'm guessing that this is probably the result of some judge shopping. But you might recall that there is a particular law that is in place, and it is called the Protection in Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, that protects those who are involved in the firearms industry, whether it's selling firearms, whether it's manufacturing firearms. It protects them from being sued for no fault of their own. Meaning, if someone takes the product that you manufacture, the product that you sell, and they use it for an illegal purpose, and you didn't know they were going to use it for an illegal purpose, you didn't intend for it to be used for an illegal purpose, whatever, they can't sue you. Well, there have been a number of attempts to kind of get around that, and usually the judiciary has been pretty good about not allowing that to happen. Well, such is not the case in this case. As our good friend Mr. Tom Knighton is writing over at Bearing Arms, judge rules lawsuit against retailer over suicide can proceed. The Protection and Law of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act is supposed to protect the gun industry from stupid, ridiculous laws. They can still be sued when they screw up, which such as making a faulty chamber on a gun that explodes, but not because someone did something with the gun that was beyond the power of the company in question to prevent. But what if, after the fact, you can argue that they actually could? That seems to be what's going on with a lawsuit against the sporting goods company Shields, which a judge is allowing to proceed. It says here, and this is a story that they're reporting, Judge Karen Janish denied a motion by Shields to dismiss a wrongful death and neglect entrustment lawsuit that was brought by Sarah Van Bogart on behalf of her son, Jordan Lance Markey. It sets the stage for a trial that will pit one of the nation's largest gun control advocacy groups against a popular sporting goods chain that operates throughout the Midwest. In 2022, Markey, 19, biked to the Shields store in Eddy Prairie and requested to see a handgun. It was given to him by an employee, William, I'm not going to pronounce his last name, and Markey ran through the store, loaded the handgun, and used it to kill himself. Wow. Okay. Well, all right, let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think, Mike, they're arguing that makes it such that they believe that they can actually sue this particular store over this?
Well, it looks like the employee might have, if not violated the law, ignored the law. The law says you cannot sell or deliver a firearm through an FFL to anybody under 21 years of age, and this young man was 19 years old. So it looks like a due diligence may not have been done on part of the store to confirm that he was legal age to possess the firearm, or at least receive it from an FFL. We know that they can receive firearms from 18 to 20 through private transactions, but this was not a private transaction. This was an FFL, and they're held to that federal standard. So they may have a leg to stand on here, Craig. This might be a case that moves forward.
Right. You noticed the same exact thing that I did. Once again, being 19 years old, had it been a long gun, depending on the state, and I don't know what the law on long guns is there, if they have a restriction on under 21. But I do know that the restriction nationally, with particular from an FFL, is 21. The other thing that I found interesting is, so he ran through the store and loaded it, meaning he must have been able to get access to the ammunition as well.
Or he brought it from home with him, one or the other.
There you go. Maybe he knew exactly what kind of firearm he was looking for,
Yeah,
what caliber, because he knew what caliber ammo that he had.
right.
Um, yeah, this is going to be a hard one. This is definitely going to be a hard one for this particular manufacturer because you're right. They did not necessarily follow the law in this one.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's grounds for argument, right? Because he's allowed to possess, right? So at 18 to 20 years
Mhm.
old, federally, you're allowed to possess. Well, all he did was give it to him to possess. He did not, listen. I if he had given him the ID, I mean, the defense could be, well, when he gave me the ID to show that he's not 21, I would have stopped the sale.
Mhm.
But at 18, he's allowed to possess the firearm, so he's allowed to look at it and examine it. He's just not allowed to buy it. So, it's
Mhm.
it's not one of those things where, oh, it's a crime to show somebody under 21. No, it's a crime to sell it to them. So I think
Right.
I think there's wiggle room at the next level here. And hopefully, what
Mhm.
this comes down to is at some point a judge in this line of judges that they're going to go through says, "Hey, by the way, it's unconstitutional to restrict anybody under 21 to have a firearm,
Mhm.
so I'm throwing it out based on that."
That is actually that is definitely a possibility.
Yeah,
Um, what I am hoping is that they have to determine that they broke the law. And in other words, you can't argue at one hand that they did nothing illegal in allowing him to possess the firearm or giving him the firearm. He would have had to have broken a law in terms of doing that, being once again being under the age of 21. Because evidently, I guess the guy supposedly looked youthful. I don't know. I don't see any pictures of the kid, so I know that to me, anyone under the age of 35 looks like they could be 18. So,
yeah. And listen, I'll tell you, for the case of this, supposedly look
Mhm.
youthful has nothing to do with how old were they actually. It's like
Yes,
the defense in statutory rape. There is no defense. She looked this age. She gave me a fake ID. How old were they really is the only thing that matters.
yes, no, true, true. No, that is 100% true. Um, we have from Carnal in 8 year in 8 year. Okay, I'm probably mispronouncing. He's got that anyway. He's watching us over on Rumble. He says all of our laws are open to interpretation by broken judges. Yes, you are 100% correct, and that's exactly what could be happening here. Is you
Yeah.
There's a reason why organizations judge shop because they know that in particular on the left, judges do not see their job as to interpret the law. They see their job as to right wrongs, as to promote justice as they see it. And sometimes the justice as they see it is not in line with the actual law.
Yeah, and I think I would say it. The judges on the right enforce the law, right? And the judges on the left, they
Yes,
do interpret it. They want to interpret it to their own self interest.
exactly. And then that's exactly what they wind up doing. And
Yeah,
because their job once again is they're trying to push a perspective, and they won't admit that they're trying to do that, but that's exactly what it is that they're trying to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Which
Legislating from the
by the way,
bench.
exactly, legislating from the bench. My attitude is if you want to legislate, how about you retire your robe? How about you go out there, you file, you go and you run for office, then you
There
get a
you go.
chance to legislate.
That's right. That's how it
That's
works.
that that's how it works. That's how exactly how it works. Speaking of how it works, it's taken a lot of pressure, but it appears that California has finally, caved when it comes to how they're going to handle not transgender, boys and girl sports, which is sorry, boys and girl sports. And this piece right here from the California Globe, California finally alters policy allowing biological men to compete in women's sports following threats of federal cuts. So here's in essence what they're doing. I'll just read this to you. It says, in a surprise altering of their policy allowing biological men to compete in women's sports, the California Interscholastic Federation, or otherwise known as CIF, announced Tuesday that they will now allow girls to compete who could have otherwise qualified for state track and field championship if a trans man previously won. Transgender students will also now be scored on in a different category, separate from girls and boys, meaning that they can still compete, but not against the male group or female group. This new policy will take effect immediately, starting with the state meet this Friday and Saturday in Clovis. So, what I believe is going to wind up happening, Mike, is so the transgender or the males identifying as females will compete, will be running or whatever, competing against females in those particular sports, but will be graded separately. So in other words, they could be the first trans girl, and then there'll be a first girl. um, it's their way of saying, okay, well, look, rather than creating a whole different category in which we're not going to have enough people competing, which is just going to be trans athletes competing against each other, we're going to just allow them to run against the girls, but they're not actually competing against the girls. I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, because then you get, people punching each other, and, because if you ever watched a race, they get up behind you and jab you in the ribs and, they kick your heels to try and get through on certain places. If anybody's ever been a runner before, let them run with the men. That way they'll be at the back. Nobody will care. They won't matter.
Well,
as opposed to
the other
up with the women's runs. Craig, I say have a third and fourth division. Let the men run, let the women run, then let the dudes that want to be chicks run, then let the chicks that want to be dudes run. Let that happen.
There you
have
go.
4 different divisions.
There you go. Well, yeah. I just let them do it if that's what they want to do. If there's only one or two of them, then there's only one or two. But the idea is they should not be competing. Now, this doesn't address the issue of what about for example, team sports like basketball or volleyball or softball or I think I already said basketball, water polo. I mean, there's going to be a number of different, or swimming. Or no, swimming actually would fall in the whole racing thing, but there are a number of team sports. How exactly are you going to divide those sports up?
You have a regular people spot over here, and then others over there. And if there's not enough for that sport, I go recruit. I guess.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. There's no reason why you just don't create a whole nother grouping if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I think feeding into it's the only thing. And first of all, gender dysphoria is not a physical ailment. It's not a physical problem. It's a psychological problem. It is believing that you are that which you are not. And the challenge is it's the only one where it's the only psychological disorder that we actually prescribe medications and surgeries that then basically turn out to be physical changes that actually change the physiology of the person who's suffering from the disease. It doesn't just mess with the mind. It literally messes and changes the body to comport with supposedly what the mind believes. And I don't understand how for those of you who are just listening to the program, Mike is well, let's just say that Mike is he's pushing the PG-13 rating of the show, we'll say.
I believe it's sign language for the medical procedure known as a bananaectomy.
There you go. And by the way, so he has so our friend Carnal Nature has corrected how to say his name. Carnal, thank you so much. Very much appreciate that. And he is referring to this conversation at least about the girls, and I'm pretty sure we're talking about the girls in boys sports or boys and girls sports. He's talking about Clown World. And yes, California is to a certain degree Clown World. As we like to say, we are the land of fruits and nuts.
I understand, Craig, why you don't know how to say his name correctly. I knew a guy in deep South Georgia. His name was Colonel Angus. You could get Colonel Angus down in southern Georgia.
Colonel.
Yeah. He's a southern
Another Southern gentleman down there.
Yeah, yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, Cardinal, where are you from, brother? Let us know. Let us know where you're watching the show from. All right, our last story here, and this is there are a few people in politics who can literally will go down as crooked can be. And Pete Blagojevich was one of Blagojevich. Pronounce his name for me, Mike.
Blagojevich, I love that guy.
I know you love that guy because he's just like, yeah, I was corrupt AF, or, whatever. But he has actually pointed out that he's pointing out kind of the obvious when it comes to Democrats, and he's talking about Democrats. He's talking about their Hall of Fame, and there's a particular Democrat that I think you and I would both agree would be a first ballot liar Hall of Famer were one to exist.
Former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich is here. All right, Rob, what do you think when a guy says, I'll have a president in a coma over Donald Trump?
I say that guy hates the American people and hates his constituents and hates even Democratic voters. I mean, shouldn't we all wish good things for our country? And isn't it right to hope that a president, even the one from the other party, can succeed to do good things for his country and good things for people? But that statement sums up what today's Democratic Party is all about. They don't care about the American people. They don't care about America. They just all they care about is winning elections and telling lies. And, the playwright Tennessee Williams said that the only thing that's worse than a liar is a liar that's also a hypocrite. And these Democrats are hypocrites, and they are liars on a monumental scale. And if they have any sense of patriotism or sense of, I should say, integrity, what they ought to try to do now is atone for their sins, admit those lies, and try to do better moving forward.
Well, they can't, because it's opened up a whole can of worms. If you're admitting to lying and covering up the last 4 years, where did it stop? You just lied about Biden. You just covered up Biden. You didn't cover up and lie about anything else. I mean, it looks like everything was a lie or a cover up. Doesn't that justify us just doubting everything they say?
No, I don't think you can remotely give any credibility to pretty much any Democrat who talks about anything these days based upon their history of lying. Even the act of forcing Biden off the ticket was an admission by the act itself that he wasn't capable, he was not of sound mind to be the president of the United States. What they should have done then, for the good of the country, frankly, was invoke the 25th Amendment and have Kamala Harris president. On the other hand, maybe that wasn't for the good of the country. Maybe we're better off with a brain-dead Biden as president than her. But the fact is, they just keep lying and lying and lying, and they keep telling us things that we know are simply not true. And when they told us Biden was fit, we could see with our own eyes that they were lying and that he wasn't.
Well, you just made a great point. They'd rather have a comatose Biden than Kamala Harris.
Right. Right. And, these lies about President Trump, it's all they've got. I mean, frankly, no one has been more lied about than President Trump by these Democrats over the last generation, since 2016, 2015, when Trump came down that elevator. They're not talking about anything that matters to the American people except going after Trump time and time again with all these big lies, whether it's Russian collusion, Stormy Daniels, all these other things that have already been litigated, and all those fake crimes that they brought against him. No, I think the Democratic Party is in serious trouble because nobody who has any common sense could believe anything they say. And the king of the Democratic liars is Adam Schiff. If there was a Hall of Fame for liars, like there is, let's say, a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Adam Schiff would be Elvis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, he would definitely be Elvis. He would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I think that if you look at why Democrats lost this last election, I think if you look at why their numbers are so low, why, and by the other thing, why nobody believes the media, is because they have been caught in the what is the biggest political lie in American history.
Well, so far, I mean, all we know is that there was a shadow government behind him. I mean, let's find out some of the other lies. Let's find out what happened at with Hillary Clinton. What happened with the Clintons in general, right? Let's find out what happened with Obama. Let's find out what happened at with Hillary and the State Department turning their backs on our embassy over there. Let's find out for real. Let's find out what's going on. And listen, if you don't know the story of Rod Blagojevich, interesting story. Illinois Democrat becomes the governor. He's definitely a Democrat. He starts to become much more conservative. Now, listen, if you're going to be the governor or any politician in Chicago, you're a little corrupt. It's the way it is. It's how you grow up in government there. So when he starts going straight and starts trying to clean things up, Craig, they turn on him and throw him to the wolves, and he gets charged and arrested and does jail time for corruption because he tried to not be corrupt. So they put him in jail.
Well, I think to a certain degree, that's why he identifies so much with Donald Trump, another former Democrat who did a lot of business in the biggest, arguably the biggest city in the country, with some of the most corrupt politicians. And, hey, you going to do business in that city, you going to do business in the city, I mean, it's sometimes anyway, but he's trying to be on the straight and narrow as president. And they're like, you know what? No, the funny part is though, they still haven't got anything on them. They literally have to make up crimes to take out Trump.
Yeah, and they ain't making up enough of them. And here's a little advice for them. If you're going to make up crimes against President Trump, try not to do the same crime at the same time. I'm just saying.
Just saying that's very insightful of you. I'm glad you caught, because I would have never thought that. I would have thought, since I'm accusing them of the crime, maybe I should do it too, so that would they really catch me?
Your Honor, I saw that man doing drugs in the bathroom.
Well, and what were you doing in the bathroom? I was doing a line, right? I mean, I was.
Somebody had to witness it.
Somebody had to witness it. It was a sting operation.
That's it.
Anyway, but I really do believe, and it's funny because you're hearing a lot of Democrats and a lot of decline stairs who not even conservatives, who are just pointing out that the Democratic Party, and we're still trying to parse out how much the media is going to have to deal with this, but they have so ruined their reputation, their credibility. It may take an entire generation. Clearly, Gen Z does not believe them at all. And they realize this is a flat out lie. I don't know if you've been, I've actually been reading Jake Tapper's book. I'm just about done with it. And I will tell you, the funny part is you have people who are literally like, yeah, I'd rather have an unelected group of whoever making these decisions than to have Donald Trump as president. They literally admit that they stole control of the White House. It was a coup. And they knew it was a coup, and they didn't care.
We've been saying this for years, Craig. Yes. They absolutely knew what they were doing, and they've lied to the public about it since day one because they believe that the ends justify the means. Therefore, it's okay to lie to you about it.
Right. Well, exactly. And they're saying, oh, well, that's why. So that's why people who know it's wrong are trying to ignore. They're trying to just move past it like it never happened.
Yeah. What difference does it make now? Yeah.
Right. What difference does it make now? Yeah, because because if we did that, if Donald Trump was not conscious, and Donald Trump Jr. was in the White House making the decisions, they would be losing their minds. Or if Steve Miller and whatnot and them were making the decisions in the White House, and Donald Trump had no role in it, people would be losing their minds. The people on the left would be losing their minds. They'd be calling it a coup. Up in here. All right, folks. Well, this brings us now to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word. All right, this first one here. Well, as you all may recall, Mike missed our first day back from the vacation, and this was the excuse that he sent me.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look, I have trouble even saying to myself, my own head, the number of years. I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly.
Wow. Okie dokie then. That is interesting. And
Yeah, I told you,
what you think about that?
literally like 6:10 yesterday, just finishing up bagging some groceries, putting them in the truck, driving home, and I'm like, I feel like there's something I should be doing. You know, and I was like, because normally, like at 5 o'clock, I'll get a reminder when you start texting me the stories, and I start texting you stories then. But I never got them, so I just was walking around the hardware store, then went to the grocery store, and oh well,
Just thinking I got this. I got this.
yeah, I'm all good. Still all good.
Oh, okay. Well, that brings us to our next story, and as you might recall, there's been this big push now. There's this big push called SAM, where they're trying to get the Democratic Party back in line to kind of get them to relate to male voters again. According to our friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news you can trust. Dems unveil plan to win back men by having gay guy grow a beard.
That guy needs a barber and a shave.
He needs to grow a real beard. If you're gonna grow a beard, grow a beard. I'm just
Where
saying.
is he? Why does it look like he's hanging out outside a 1700s pub or something like that? Where is he?
Yeah, true that. True that. Now, by the way, and I don't know if you've heard, Mike, but David Hogg has actually been reinstated as a vice president at the DNC. According to our friends over at the Babylon Bee, this is actually a user submitted title. It says here DNC forced to accept David Hogg after he identifies as a woman.
Now that's more bodily hair than David Hogg actually has. That boy's about as smooth as a California dude shaved.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was like, he looks like his beard's doing a little bit better than Mayor Pete's is.
That's the old shave it from somewhere else and glue it to your face technique. It looks like David Hogg's got going on there.
All right. All right, folks. Well, that brings us to the end of the program. But before we go, we're going to give one last shout out to our sponsors.
That's right. Let's say hello to our good friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. Now you get yourself AR barrels, any caliber you want, any barrel length you want for your next AR build, or re-barrel your current AR platform. That's hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly, fighting the good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can take part in California's future today. And if you want the best in field gear, tactical gear, web gear, salt gear, law enforcement, EMS, fire, whatever it may be, get your group together, get your agency together, make yourself an order over at uscombatgear.com, where you can get everything except the gun.
That's right, folks. We will be back tomorrow on Throat Punch Thursday. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the show and encouraging your friends to do the same. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll let you then. Peace out.